I'm 31, and lately I've started wondering if the worst kind of loneliness is being surrounded by family and still feeling like nobody hears you. Not strangers, not coworkers, not people who barely know your name. Your husband, his parents, sometimes even the life you built with your own hands. People can stand right next to you, ask questions over your head, make decisions around you, and still somehow treat you like you are just part of the furniture. Useful, present, expected, but not really included. My husband's name is Rami. He's 40. I'm 31. We've been together for 8 years and married for 6. We have 3 children, a 6-year-old daughter and twin boys who are almost 3. I'm also pregnant again, which makes everything harder to say out loud because the second I get emotional, he can point at that and act like the conversation is already explained. That has become one of his favorite shortcuts lately. You're tired. You're hormonal. You're overwhelmed. You're making this bigger than it is. Sometimes I think he doesn't even hear my actual words anymore. He just waits for my tone to become useful against me. When we met, Rami was different. Or maybe that's what I tell myself because it's easier than believing I ignored things. He came from a religious family, but he said he wasn't practicing anymore. I was raised Christian, but not in a strict way. Faith mattered to me, but I had no interest in forcing anyone else to live like me. We talked about that early, very early. I told him I would never convert. I told him I respected his background, but I needed the same respect back. I told him if we ever had children, I wanted them to know both sides of where they came from. He agreed to all of it, not reluctantly, not vaguely, clearly. He said, "I chose my own path. I would never force one on you." I believed him. For years, that was our marriage. Not perfect, but recognizable. We celebrated Christmas with my family. We visited his parents for their holidays. I cooked what made sense for everyone. He bought me dresses because he said he loved how confident I looked in them. He used to say my independence was one of the first things he noticed about me. Then, after the twins were born, we decided I would stop working for a while. It was supposed to be temporary. Daycare for 3 small kids made no financial sense, and my job had become impossible with the lack of sleep. Rami earned more, so we agreed I would stay home until the boys were a little older. At the time, it felt practical. Now I see how quickly practical can turn into dependent. The change didn't happen all at once. That's the part that makes it hard to explain without sounding dramatic. He started praying again, then attending services more often, then only wanting certain foods in the house, then listening to lectures in the car, then correcting little things I said, then saying the children needed clear guidance, then saying I should be careful not to confuse them. I respected the first parts. I did. People change. People reconnect with things. I never wanted to be the wife who treated faith like a threat, but then his faith stopped being about him. It became about me. One evening, I was putting our daughter's coat on before taking her to a winter event at my sister's church. There were crafts, music, hot chocolate, nothing intense. Rami looked at me and said, "I don't think she should go." I thought he meant because it was cold. He said, "It confuses her." I asked what confused her. He said, "She needs to know who she is." I said, "She's 6. She knows she likes glitter and pancakes." He didn't smile. That was the first real argument. Not because of the event, because of what came after. He said our children should be raised in his faith only. I reminded him that we had agreed they would know both sides. He said I was misremembering. I said I was absolutely not misremembering. He said, "You always twist things when you feel cornered." I remember standing there with our daughter's little pink hat in my hands, feeling like I had been moved out of the conversation about my own child. After that, more rules appeared. Not requests. Rules. No Christmas tree this year. No church events with my family. No certain books. No certain cartoons. No shorts for our daughter, even at home. No swimsuit he thought looked too grown. No fitted dresses for me unless we were alone. No makeup if his parents were visiting. No buying clothes without him asking why I needed them. He never said, "You are not allowed." He was smarter than that. He said, "Are you really wearing that? Do you think that's appropriate? I'm just trying to protect this family. You know how my parents will see it. Why are you making this difficult?" And if I pushed back long enough, he would sigh and say, "I'm the head of this household. You need to respect that. That phrase changed everything for me. Head of the household. He said it like it was natural, like it was loving, like it was just order. But it felt less like leadership and more like a door closing. Because leadership would have listened. Leadership would have remembered our agreements. Leadership would not use money, pregnancy, and family pressure as reasons I should be quieter. His parents lived 20 minutes away and suddenly became part of every disagreement. They don't speak much English, so I have never been able to explain myself properly. Rami translates what he wants, or summarizes, or says, "She's just upset." I can see their faces when he does it. The disappointment, the judgment, the way his mother looks at my clothes, then at him, like I am something he has failed to manage. Once during dinner, I tried to ask a question about our daughter starting school events. Rami answered his father instead of me. Then his mother spoke to him for almost a minute. Everyone nodded. I asked, "What did she say?" He said, "She agrees with me." That was it. No translation. No room. Just a verdict handed down in a language I wasn't allowed to enter. The worst part is that Rami can still be wonderful. That is what makes people stay longer than outsiders understand. He makes breakfast for the kids on Saturdays. He rubs my back when the pregnancy pain gets bad. He brings home my favorite tea. He cried during the twins' first school performance. He has never been lazy. He works hard. He loves our children. That is why I keep asking myself if I'm being unfair, if I'm rejecting something important to him, if marriage means adapting, if this is just a season, if he is becoming more serious and I am mistaking that for control. Then he opens my shopping bag and asks why I bought a dress with sleeves that short. And I remember, a few weeks ago, something happened that made me see the pattern clearly. We were at a playground near the train station with all 3 kids. Our daughter tripped while running and scraped her knee. Nothing serious, but she cried hard. I knelt down immediately, cleaned it with a wipe, and asked Rami to grab the small first aid pouch from the stroller. He didn't move. Instead, an older man nearby asked if she was okay. Then another woman came over with tissues. Then Rami started explaining to them what happened, as if he had been the one handling it. I said, "The pouch is in the stroller." No one responded. I said it again. Rami looked right past me and asked the stranger if she had anything to clean the scrape with. She handed him tissues. I was still holding our daughter. I was the one calming her down. I was the one whose hand had blood on it. But somehow the entire conversation happened around me. The woman praised Rami for being such an attentive father. He smiled and said, "Thank you." I looked at him and something in me just went quiet. Later that night, I told him how invisible I felt. Not just at the playground. Everywhere. In our marriage. With his parents. In decisions about the children. In conversations where my memory, my faith, my clothing, my money, and my feelings were treated like problems to manage. He stared at me for a long time, then said, "You're making a list because you want to win." I said, "No, I'm making a list because I don't think you hear me unless I bring evidence." He said, "That's exactly what I mean. You're turning this into a case against me." I said, "Maybe because you keep acting like I need permission to exist in my own life." That was when his face changed. Not rage. Not exactly. More like offense. He said, "Everything I do is for this family." I said, "Then why does your version of family require me to get smaller?" He called that manipulative. He said I knew how serious that accusation sounded. He said I was using modern therapy language to attack his values. Then he said, "You should be grateful you have a husband who provides." And that sentence landed in me like a stone. Because I am grateful. That is the trap. I am grateful he works. I am grateful our children are loved. I am grateful we have a home. I am grateful I can stay with them while they're small. But gratitude is not supposed to be a leash. Update 1. I called my sister the next day. I had not told her everything because I was embarrassed. I thought if I said it out loud, it would sound like I had let my life become something I would have warned another woman about. She didn't judge me. She just said, "You need options before you need answers." That sentence helped. So I started quietly checking practical things. My old workplace, childcare costs, savings, documents, what accounts I can access, what support I would actually have if this got worse. I am not making a dramatic exit plan tomorrow, but I am done having no plan at all. Update 2. Rami noticed I had been quieter. He asked if I was still angry. I said, I'm not angry, I'm awake. He didn't like that. He said I was being cold. Maybe I am, but sometimes cold is what happens when warmth keeps getting used against you. Update 3. We have counseling scheduled. I agreed because I want to be able to say I tried with honesty, but I also made one thing very clear. I told him, I will not go to counseling so someone can teach me to obey you better. He said that was an ugly thing to say. I told him it was an ugly thing to have to clarify. I don't know what happens next. I know people will hear pieces of this and argue both sides. Some will say faith changes people. Some will say I should compromise. Some will say I should have seen this coming. Some will say I'm overreacting because he provides and loves the kids. But here's what I know from inside the marriage. I did not agree to disappear. I did not agree to have my life rewritten after children made leaving harder. I can respect his faith. But respect cannot mean surrender. And if the only way to keep the peace is to become invisible, then what we have is not peace. It is silence.